Welcome back to Black Girl Couch Reviews. I'm your host, Christina. We are here to do a bonus pod on season 9 of The Walking Dead. Additionally, to discuss some feedback that I received in regards to Richonne Thesis out there. So I thought I would combine both so that the feedback that was sent was acknowledged and read, because I do appreciate always hearing from listeners. And I'm glad that that podcast was well received, because I was just doing it because I really wanted to do it. And it is something I'm going to go back and do for Westworld season 1 and 2, but they're very time consuming and very long, so it was kind of something I needed to get out. And I'm glad that it was something that a lot of people liked hearing, despite it being 6 fucking whole hours. So I definitely want to start by acknowledging and shouting out some of the feedback, and then we'll get into my wrap-up thoughts in regards to season 9 of The Walking Dead. So we'll start with Doreen. Let's get to your feedback. I listened to your Richonne Thesis on Tumblr. It was very entertaining and I agreed with much of it. I really only differed with you about your take on Shane. I always thought that the reason that Shane adapted to the brutality of the zombie apocalypse so quickly was because he was already there. From episode 1, Shane gave me dirty cop vibes. I think Shane had simply been wearing a facade of civility in the old world. The zombie apocalypse unleashed the real Shane. To me, that was always the difference between Rick and Shane. Rick had to adapt to the ruthlessness and brutality of the new world because that's not who he naturally was. For Shane, the chaos of the zombie apocalypse simply freed him to be his authentic self. Sincerely, Doreen. I'm not going to say your last name just in case you don't want that out there. So thank you so much for adding that perspective. I can see where you're going there. I'm not sure if I'd have to give myself a lot more time to think about it. But I would say Shane was much more ready to jump into who he needed to be. There was less hesitation. I felt like for Rick, it took a little bit more time for him to get to the Rick-tatorship. And even then, he tried to talk himself off the ledge after Lori. But then when shit hit the fan, it was on and popping. It was full Rick-tatorship. All the way just about until Negan decided to roll up and be like, bitch, please, there's a new sheriff in town and I have a bigger dick than you. So I can see that, but I don't know if I ever felt that Shane was a dirty cop. I felt that he was someone who was, well, I guess that is a dirty cop. If you're thinking about maybe possibly bending the rules, then you shouldn't be someone who is supposed to be following the rules. So no, that's a good point. But I don't know how quickly how authentic that Shane was to his inner self. And even if it was, Rick in season 4 episode, what was it? The finale, when he was sitting there with the blood all over his face and Daryl said, that's not on you. That's not who you really are. And he's like, no, this is me. This is exactly who I am. It's not someone that is a facade. It's something I've put on myself, or that I've kind of hid from myself all this time. And it's probably, if you're saying what you're saying, I can actually argue that Shane and Rick were really good friends because maybe they always knew that kind of about themselves. If we're going with your theory that this was always Shane's authentic self, then we would have to kind of agree that this was authentic Rick as well, because he says so. And then he says, you know, remember me with Tyrese when I was whooping that ass and I would not stop. There's a part of me that was unleashed and I actually like the way it feels. And even Michonne says it a little bit later, like, oh, you got to let it go because it feels good. It feels warm. It's kept your people safe and free. But the fight can turn on you. That person that you are, that you rediscovered, that's a beast, can actually turn on you. So I think I can agree and disagree at the same time on that point of whether or not Shane was always authentically more savage. Now, I would say Shane, in my opinion, could not have been saved at that point. I think when he was ready to kill Rick was the point where he had went past his point of no return. There was no coming back for him. He wanted his family. He wanted his son. He wanted that baby in Lori's belly. And if that meant killing Rick, that's what he was going to do. And it had nothing to do with safety. It became territorial at that moment. So I would argue in the end that Shane became more of the villain than Rick ever did. But Rick became, I think he got real close, particularly in Alexandria. If it wasn't for the people around him that he still respected in a certain light, namely Michonne, because as he even said, you're the only one that could have talked me out of this shit, then he would not have come back. There's no way he would have reined himself back in and decided to put people first. She really had to guide him, and I think to a lesser extent, because like I think if Daryl had showed up, and then Morgan also very coincidentally showing back up, and him being someone he really respects, having that moralistic compass to reinforce back into his life, really helped save Rick. But I think he was close. He was close to being there. But I definitely respect your opinion, and I think there is some authenticity to what you are saying. So thanks again for the feedback. The next comes from Cheryl. Hello. Well, holy smokes. That's how it starts off. And then she goes on to say, I started listening thinking it was just going to be a couple of minutes and wound up listening to the whole 6 freaking hours at home one time. LOL. I'm homesick, so I had the time to spare. I love Rick and Michonne so much, and I am an at the fencer. Shipping from the moment they laid eyes on him. I hear it. Not necessarily that it was love at first sight, but that there was an instant connection and that they would be together in the future. I agree. But I loved how you took them season by season and all of the wonderful moments pre and post canon. There was a lot of Richonne, and I can't understand either how anyone can say that they didn't see it coming. Shaking my head. They had more scenes together than people that were actual couples like Glenn and Maggie. It was so obvious. Rick staring at Michonne's backside, and their epic stares were hot as hell on another level. They put the power in power couple, and the relation and relationship goes. They've set the bar high, not just for each of them individually, but as a couple. I love that they didn't have all of the drama, cheating, breaking up, getting back together, triangles, etc. Just pure love and what it means to be ride or die. They're Mr. and Mrs. Grimes and have been since Say Yes, and she doesn't have Rick's ring around her neck. Oh, and she does have Rick's ring around her neck, and Andy refers to Denai as his TV wife. Maybe Gimple will surprise us in the movies or Kang on the show with it being solidified. Rick and Andrea were married in the comics, so it's not unprecedented, but regardless, they're soulmates and are committed to each other till death do they part. I agree. I don't think they have been acknowledged as married. I think Say Yes was, of course, the proposal. I think we all can accept that. And then after that, she was wearing his ring around her neck. So it's definitely implied. But at the same time, I don't know if they've said it any type of definitive way in the show. Anyways, back to your email. Gimple has done some questionable things, like killing my baby boy Carl, but Richonne was his baby and he did right by them. That he wrote his white leading man's love interest to be a dark-skinned woman of color with dreads took some big balls, knowing what the demographics of the show is, and I will always be grateful to him for that. Other shows need to take note on how to do a realistic romance, not just interracial, but a romance between two people that found each other in the most unlikeliest of circumstances and made it work. That is so true, because it feels like what we watch on TV is supposed to be some type of, I guess, showcase of life. But then again, will we really watch some show? Yeah, no, apparently we will. All you got to do is make the drama, not the people, make it the actual story, the body, what's going outside of the characters. I think that's a better way of saying it. that I was trying to say earlier. So I totally agree on that. But I'm going to disagree on the Gimple killing baby boy Carl. That ain't got shit to do with Gimple. Look, I know he was the showrunner at the time. I know he's the easiest person to blame. But them contract negotiations had shit to do with Gimple. He ain't had nothing to do with that. He really didn't. It was AMC's higher ups, and the people that pays Gimple's paycheck did not want to spend any more money on Carl's storyline. They did not think it was going to work. They didn't think the actor was going to be able to carry the more dramatic material, and they did not foresee the show going past season 10. I think they were already starting in their wheelhouse on how they wanted it to go forward and who they wanted it to go forward with. I always thought in my mind that keeping Judith alive, who is not alive in the comics, was AMC's out to eventually transition that story over to either another character or simply have Judith Grimes be the last remaining one to take it into the future. Why we're seeing her a lot as a kid. So if they do another time jump and keep the franchise The Walking Dead still going, it would have to be with Judith as a woman. And now that in hindsight's a bitch, right? Because now we know that they're working on all these other projects, that they're planning this huge ass movie for us, and that, other things are going on. I think AMC were having those talks, which most production companies do years sometimes in advance. Think of Marvel movies, right? There's a franchise and you plan it out in a long ass time. And as much as I think even the actor Chandler Riggs came out and said, my acting wasn't that great in the earlier seasons, and it's true. I love Carl, don't get me wrong. I did not want him to die whatsoever, but at the same time, the bigwigs that carry the money don't want to have to up his contract and pay him additionally to be the son of Rick Grimes and carry the story forward as he could have been paid, as he should have been paid if the show wanted to go forward with him as the lead, and they chose not to. And it sucks, but it's a business decision, and once you're in Hollywood, that's just part of the machine. I don't know if I can blame Gimple for that, though. I don't know where he would have went in any of that other than to be the mouthpiece for AMC and act like it was him agreeing with everything. He don't give a fuck. As far as he's concerned, I think he would have kept the whole show going with the Grimes, all of them, going forward in the further seasons, because he's a comic book fucking idolist. Look how he was starting to write some of the storylines. He was getting almost point by point in the comics. That's my 2 cents on that. So looking forward to the reunion in the movies, but when it's all said and done, Rick, Michonne, Carl, Judith, and RJ will always be my favorite part of The Walking Dead. Rick, Michonne, and Carl on the road is still one of my favorite parts of the entire series. And yes, I too think they claimed each other as family and could have went off on their own, and I would have watched that all day, I agree. Michonne and Carl were perfection. I don't even know if I'll be watching once Michonne is gone or just tape it and watch it when I get a chance. I just hope they don't have Michonne be out of character and leave her kids with Negan and Carol, neither, because kids don't fare too well around her. She either needs to take them with her or leave them with Aaron or Daryl or Rosita. I think maybe because they have shown so much of Negan saving Judith that's a big theory going around. I don't see it. I think for all that she is cool with, I wouldn't even say cool with Negan, but it has acknowledged that he has changed. He's not the same person he was. He can't even go back to that person, even if he wanted to be, not to that capacity in which he was the villain. So he's trying to, at every moment, prove to Michonne that he has a loyalty to her and her family for sparing his life, for allowing him to be forgiven for his sins, even though he's not forgiven by the one person, or a few people, I should say, because Rosita lost Abraham, and I guess you know, what's his name? Eugene would feel something about that too. And then Maggie lost the father of her son. So that's the biggest thing. So I keep talking about how the hell, which it's already confirmed that Lauren Cohan, so either Lauren Cohan shows up and she's a part of the whole entire season and Negan has to dip with Michonne, because there's no way we can work with Hilltop and Negan's just walking around. And nobody wants to see another season of Negan in that fucking cage. It's pointless to the character. He could do so much more. And what he needs to do to pick up his comic arc, which is infiltrate the Whisperers camp, needs to happen. So you can't do that with him just being willy-nilly and Maggie being okay with the idea of him walking around doing it. No, that's not gonna, it just doesn't work for the audience that way. It would be disrespectful to Glenn's memory. Not only that, that kid is probably as old as Judith, maybe a little bit younger, but definitely older than RJ. So you just can't have that. You can't have that drama on screen. So it's always been my thought that Michonne goes off with Negan and they start this plan in which they're going to be the shit starters. They're going to be the ones that are going to invade the Whisperers camp for revenge. And then somewhere in the way of that, Michonne's going to get torn away to go looking for Rick. It definitely gave hints in season 9 when she said if she could take all the risks by herself, that no one else will get hurt. That's something that it would be easy to do. I think if anyone, she's going to leave her kids with Daryl, because she trusts him the most, and with Aaron, because they've given a lot more spotlight to Aaron, and Aaron has been shown to be Michonne's second in command. So I would definitely think that Aaron would be the one she would naturally leave her children with, and he has a daughter himself. That's another reason why, I mean, Negan, for all he can protect, he don't know how to take care of kids. It's not just, talking to them and talking lines and keeping them safe, but it's also changing their diapers, taking care of their hair, making sure they bathe, feeding them food. That's not Negan, not even a little bit. He's not gonna have a nurse coat on or apron on fixing food for baby RJ. That shit is not going down. So no, she's definitely going to leave them locked up at where they're at. And I think the fact that we don't have Hilltop anymore, we only have to go back and forth between, or not Hilltop, y'all know what I meant, the Kingdom. We only have to go back between Hilltop and Alexandria, and I don't see many opportunities for them to go back and forth. I think whatever's going to pop off, it's going to be more political for some reason next season, and getting the new characters acclimated, kind of getting on that shit, I feel like, because wherever the Whisperers ended at the end of this season, they seem to be further away than where they drew their territorial line. So they're just going to be probably moving in and out of the area, and it's going to create a lull between any time where shit's going to go down, and it's just going to be all a build up, but it's mostly going to be to get us acclimated and see if they're going to go past season 10 with some of these new people that could, potentially under Angela Kang produce a, not like it used to be. It's never going to be there. That's the thing. I think AMC always knew it's not going to go back to being the epic level that Walking Dead numbers brought in. That's what the films are for. But it is something that is a good chunk, 3 or 4 million people will tune in every week, and then has the potential to grow from there. The Walking Dead didn't start off with those numbers as well either. At least they were pretty high, but not, I don't know what the numbers ended on. I think it was okay. I could Google it, but I'm not feeling like it right now because I don't want to make this 4 hours either. So let me finish up your email, Cheryl. Oh, and I still side-eye Carol to this day too, because of her shenanigans from as far back as season 1 when she wanted Daryl to leave and was blaming Rick for Sophia's death, as well as in season 5 when she wanted Rick to continue to lie to Michonne, and when she left Team Family high and dry to go live in the cabin in the woods. I did love that scene in Conquer where Rick was throwing everyone under the bus. LOL. He had to make it right with her. No one else but her. Yeah, he'd been in love with her for a while and would do anything for her. If she's not all right, he's not all right. Carol and no one else will ever be able to compete with that. Great job, and thanks again for your death and analysis of my OTP of all time, Richonne. Oh, thank you. And yes, that is my OTP of all time too. I'm sorry, Richonne goes down in history. It really does. And yes, Carol is one of those characters that I have a love-hate relationship to. I just do, because she be doing some shit that nobody call her out for, and I need the show to do it more. And I'm glad you took it all the way back to season 1 when she said, Daryl, get the fuck out. Yeah, y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? That's when there was this idea that they would be canon. They're not going to be, but people can still wish. That's their right. But yeah, no one was ever gonna come. She tried, but she failed. That's why she skitty-added her ass on out the door. And then last but not least, we got Lamia, the one who put it in my head to go ahead and let all of my guts come out on my love of Michonne and Rick and Richonne. So her feedback starts with, hello, Miss Tina. Miss Tina? I gave you a nickname. Sorry, not sorry. That is a new nickname too, because my mom calls me Tina, and then my aunt as well. My dad calls me Winnie. I don't know why Winnie the Pooh. I'm sure I was not chubby as a child, but whatever. And then everyone else calls me Chris. Yeah. And then, no, my sister calls me Chrissy Bear. So I have a lot of nicknames, so I'm glad I can add another one on there. I am Miss Stina. I plan on going through season 3 into season 6 and rewatching the episodes that have Michonne and Rick so I can see it through your eyes. Because I really never saw anything between Rick and Michonne until they got to Alexandria and Michonne knocked his ass out. Woo! Lord Jesus, you missed it all, girl. When she said, I did that for you, and he didn't even get mad at that she KO'd his ass, I knew they were meant for each other. But after listening to your thoughts of their interactions, I agree that Rick was definitely in love with his best friend way before Alexandria, and Michonne loved him too, but I think she didn't want to see him like that because she was probably thinking that falling in love again wasn't a good idea since what happened to her the last time she was involved with a man. But like I said, I am going to go back and rewatch the episodes and see it from your perspective. I have 3 more weeks of my dumbass classes, and I plan on binging my entire life away. Girl, do it. It is the best. The best. Anyway, let's talk about a few topics I wanted to further discuss. I don't know what podcast episode you'll be able to, fit it right in here, girl. I'm sure I'll hear it either way. Let's talk about Rick in season 5. He really did lose his damn mind. Sometimes I feel like I'm not invested in shows like most because I love Rick Grimes. Even went to Walker's. Wait, hold on. Let me reread that because I think I am blind as a fucking bat right now. Sometimes I feel like I am not invested in shows like most because I love Rick Grimes. Even went to Walker Stalker conventions and everything. But when Rick was acting a fool, I totally would talk about it. There were times when I was truly disappointed in him because he was acting like a crazy man. There were times when he seemed manic, like pick an emotion and stay there. He was either extremely too giddy and cocky or extremely angry and didn't trust anyone. And I get it. Being in the zombie apocalypse changes you. But Rick just couldn't decide what he wanted to be. The governor or Jesus. He just kept jumping back and forth. The governor or Jesus. Hello. The 2 characters that actually have that name in the show. That's so fucking hilarious. Towards the end of the podcast, she talked about someone being on SNL and shaving their beard and looking awful. Who were you talking about? I don't normally watch SNL unless someone I like is guest hosting, and I don't remember hearing about someone from The Walking Dead on that show. Okay, I can totally tell you were like writing that, and then you were like, wait, what the fuck he was talking? That is so me. Anyways, so back to real quick in season 5. Thank you for agreeing that Rick be out of control. People need to stop it. Rick don't do no wrong. Rick be doing some shit. You be liking it because you be liking Rick and you know where he come from. But if you was on the other side of that, you'd be like, who this motherfucker crazy? Who is he? But who I was talking about was Kit Harington. He is not from The Walking Dead. He is from Game of Thrones, and he plays Jon Snow, who is hot as fuck in everything that is that show. However, when he took his beard off on SNL, I was shocked, surprised, slightly disgusted, and appalled. And I said, grow that shit back ASAP, fool, because you are not getting a role. I didn't know who he was without his beard. I'm not even, and it's sad to say. It's so sad to say. But yeah, check that out. I don't usually watch it either, but it popped up in my Tumblr feed, and I was like, no. Holy hell no. Like, hell no. No. I freaking love that sound effect. I wish I never found it, because now I want to use it all the time and I have to control myself. I always just assumed Daryl was gay. I'm not laughing because it's just I'm laughing because it's how your thought process is going, not because for a while we all assumed Daryl was gay. And that's why he was such good friends with Carol, and she never tried to make a move on him. Think about it. Daryl's only family before the zombie apocalypse was Merle, and he was a Confederate flag wearing, racial slur throwing racist. So you know that he definitely talked about all kinds of shit about gay people as well. So I could see Daryl either never exploring those feelings or being super secretive about it. After they were found by Aaron and brought to Alexandria, the way he took Daryl under his wing, I just knew we were going to find out that Daryl was gay. But now everyone is shipping him with Connie. I haven't seen the season finale because watching the episode about Michonne was so emotionally draining, and then the next episode seeing all those damn people's head on a pike, and none of those heads belong to Gabriel. Girl, talk about it. It was literally too much for me. I told myself I was going to watch the Walking Dead season finale later because I cannot deal with seeing Gabriel's dumbass face anymore. Let's be real, that nigga should have died a long time ago, but they keep allowing him to live and get an arc, and it's really stupid. And then Michonne tells him to sign for Alexandria. Girl, I was too through. I hate the character and the actor. Both of these fools can kick rocks. I agree. Girl, I want him to die so fucking bad. While we're on this subject, we might as well go into the quadruple and whatever the fuck's happening between Sadiq, Eugene, Rosita, and Gabriel. First and foremost, Rosita, you have the worst taste in men humanly possible. Like, Abraham was a prize. No wonder you try to hold on to it. And he wanted Sasha. Because everything that can, like, it's okay that you decided to sleep with Sadiq, because at least he looked good. But why would you want him to be the fling and Gabriel to be the main boo? What? What the hell kind of logic is that? And then his cocky little ass, because he hitting this Latino hot chick. He's supposed to be a man in the cloth. He trying to spout that gospel and still wearing that shit from the cloth, but his ass out here playing the baby daddy to somebody else's. This whole storyline was trash, and it's not even to say it wasn't interesting trash, but I wish that Gabriel was not involved. He get on my damn neck. Like the actor, I hate him. His cheekbones. I am so mad that he was not on that spike. And the only saving grace was someone told me in the spoiler section when I was venting about how I was really mad that Gabriel was not one of them heads, because I'm like, okay, Ezekiel, please don't make it Ezekiel, just because I'm tired of losing the one black people characters that I at least can tolerate. And if anyone deserves to be a black head, we can't have two black heads on there, because you know we're gonna feel something kind of way about that. And it's been a long time since we stopped killing off every black male character on the show. So losing two at the same time was going to be too much. But at the same time, if we're going to use one, then it had to be Gabriel. And I was going to be totally okay with this. But it did not happen. So I was venting. And then someone else told me that the reason why Gabriel and Ezekiel probably didn't die, because one, Ezekiel's going to hook back up with a Carol and they're going to go out in a ride or die fashion. And I hope that happens as well. And then they also said that The reason why they're saving it is because they need him to have the death that happens later on in the comics, which I did forget about. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And it wouldn't have been as good or as satisfying if he had died on the pikes, because it wasn't what maybe fans wanted, was to see him suffer. And I forgot that happened. So I'm okay with it now, because I am now 120% convinced that he's going to die in that exact fashion. And I cannot wait. And it's going to be even better than the fucking pikes. So there is that, Lamia. There is that. So about my homeboy Daryl being gay, because you kind of just breeze right back that. Wait, no, you're going back in the next paragraph. So let me finish your thoughts. Back to the, because you go anyways. Back to the topic at hand. I didn't see the sexual chemistry between Connie and Daryl. Not to say they wouldn't be cute together, but I just saw a woman making a decision to save a child and kid that were some fucked up people and forcing herself on Daryl. They do work very well together, and both of them don't talk much, so that'll be too cute to see Daryl being very talkative to a deaf girl. LOL. Okay. Let me break this shit down for you. They ain't gave me too much Connie and Daryl material. And there's this idea that in season 10, because I'm like, I want to say 89 to 90% positive Carol's dying in season 10. It has to be Carol dying in season 10. It cannot be anyone else. Maggie's not going to die. She's got a kid. Daryl's not going to die. They've already alluded to the idea of him being a good father, which means he's going to hook up with somebody with a kid. Carol has hit the end of her rope narratively. It's not because I'm like, I can still have a love-hate relationship with Carol, but I still really feel bad that Henry died. She did not deserve to lose any more fucking kids. And that's all this show seems to do with her character. And then what does she do after the kids? She goes on to I Am Terminator Warpath, which is also, in my opinion, old as fuck. However, if you're going to have a character like Carol go out, which I always thought that she should go out in a G-like fashion, it would be to take down either Alpha or Omega. I think she should take out Alpha, because mother against mother, you killed my child. I'm now going to be raising your fucking child because you're an asshole. And that would be more poetic. And then we can leave it with Omega, and that be someone that Negan goes up against or staves off until Rick and them roll back in and save the day. Good. So that's just how I'm writing the story for The Walking Dead. I don't care if anyone else agrees. But even if it does not go down like that, exactly, Carol's still gonna die in season 10. It's dumb not to, with where the characters are at right now. And to me, it seemed like she was stuttered to an absolute and utter halt in season 9. She's not, she's gonna have her loyal fans that love that character, that love seeing doing what she does. It keeps that demographic of viewers invested in the show, so we can carry them through season 10. Of course, they have her break up with Ezekiel so that you can give the shippers what they want, so they will come back to season 10. Y'all have to really understand that AMC is a money marketing machine. They don't kind of give a fuck about what you guys feel. I think that some people honestly think that they do, but they don't. They're going to do whatever they need to. That's why I always hated showrunners that would string you along instead of just tell you how it is. Bayman, Julie fucking whatever that bitch named Pleck, who would literally try to make it seem like the characters were getting together and then they never were getting together. I feel like The Walking Dead has firmly established that Carol and Daryl are not going to be together romantically. Despite all the shit that came out season 10, that was just bait. I honestly think it was bait just to keep those people, because if you think Daryl's going to be with Connie, you're not going to come back for season 10. And they didn't really leave them in any position that's canon only something that you can see and perceive and something they chose to focus on. And we've seen Daryl have quote unquote friendships with other new type of characters to kind of acclimate them through the show. They did it with Denise. They did it with Tara, I thought maybe. But they've always used him in that type of fashion. So I'm not saying there's no room for misinterpretation, but we're all not fools either. And there's one moment in particular with no matter what kind of way you will read it, it reads romantic. Romantic sexual interest is what it says. You can't erase it from the screen. You can feel that him and Carol are soulmates, and they may have some moment, because Daryl had to, or Rick had to open up to someone else before he can move on to the love of his life. So who's to say that he may not have? I still don't even see him going that way. I honestly don't. I don't. I feel like Ezekiel was jealous and had voiced the one thing that a lot of people felt. I mean, you took our son and then left him with Daryl. Of course I'm going to feel some type of way about that. And distrust comes when you are breaking up, you're going through pain together. Them breaking up was pretty natural. They just lost a child. They've already had their own sense of loss. He lost his family, which in a sense he's lost his identity. And then on top of that, she's grieving, and instead of reaching out to the man she loves, she's reaching out to the person she's always who's always supported her through the death of her children, and that's Daryl. It's familiarity. It's not sexual. It's not even close to being. And the fact that they left it so abrupt with him and Connie makes me feel like, no, they're going to build people back in to get invested in that relationship, because Daryl, despite him being the same age as Carol, still comes off like a 30-year-old man-child. And Carol looks like she is at the end of her walker stage. Like she gonna need a cane soon. It's not me. Y'all can shout at me all you want to, but it's what the fucking show is portraying on screen. It is what it is. Anyway, I think it's ridiculous as well because they're the same fucking age. But that's how I see that going down. As far as them having chemistry, I think they have a lot of chemistry. I think when she saved the child, I don't think that was a moment of chemistry. No, I think that something is going on with Connie. I think some fans, or at least I was starting to think that Connie, because she has this moment where she's talking to her sister, Kelly, right? And she said that all of this brought up some dormant feelings for her. I don't actually think that it's that she lost a child. I think it would be more interesting if she cannot have children because of her affliction, possibly. And I know that's superficial as fuck, because I know I've worked with deaf community before. I've worked with mentally handicapped people before for years. So don't even come at me. I'm not saying it in any insensitive manner. I'm saying that it's possible that they would use that avenue to try to explore her relationship. But just because you have a disability does not mean that you don't have children. But a lot of people who do have that impairment have their children with that impairment as well. So it's also comes with a higher risk of pregnancy is what I'm trying to get at. And then Daryl is someone who's never going to have his own child, in my opinion. He's always going to be taking care of someone else's child. And so, we just saw Connie kind of sort of adopt this baby. And that's how things have been in the zombie apocalypse. And, we can always watch that story go from there. And if they make it true to how they did Richonne, it's a good story to tell. And it's enough to get someone who's a Richonne fan like me to continue watching the show, especially if they go ahead and allow Daryl to shift more into a character. Because as much as I give Daryl shit, it's mainly because they keep him very isolated in a certain type of personality that annoys me sometimes. But it's not to say I hate Daryl. I hate that Daryl takes comic character storylines that should in fact go to them to show how awesome their character is, and yet they keep giving all that pizzazz to him, which is unfair. But that's the showrunners and the writers, and I just take it out on the character at the time. But as far as Daryl and Connie go, that's how it starts, and he's the one that saves her. So it's kind of like a moment that's not a moment that ends up becoming a moment. Like, it's insignificant to both characters at the time, but it's significant if you're watching both characters from how they've been. Daryl's always trying to play the hero kind of character, and here is Connie putting her life on the line for a child, and she's stuck and she doesn't know where to go, and here's Daryl like a light. So there's a lot of imagery there if we're going to go into a future seasons with them. If you like to have a good kind of like the fence moment for Richonners, like this moment is momentous. It would be when she's lost and she has this, we're seeing it from her perspective, and she risks her life to save this child, and Daryl risks his life to save her, if you want to see it that way. But I really didn't see too much chemistry until they were walking together, and then the interaction between the dog. Like, he's clearly trying to insert, like, she tells him to look at my face when I'm talking, and he's not used to being instructed. She's got a little bit of boss to her that I really like about her characterization, despite the fact that she's deaf. She's very smart. She's very intuitive, and she can lead and take care of herself. And those are all really good characteristics. I'm not saying someone like Carol doesn't have those, but she works well with Daryl because he's not a talker. So they kind of they're used to being in their own type of worlds. And that makes them work together. But then you have that cute moment between the dog where, he's trying to get the thing from her and it breaks. And that scene was ad-libbed anyway. And she kind of rolls her eyes at him and they walk off. But I would say the moment where I knew where it was kind of building up to something more is when after they rescued Lydia and Henry from the camp. Because after that moment, they're having that cute little conversation in the woods. And she's like, no, let's go this way. And he's like, no, we're going to go this way. And he's also trying to leave the girl. And she takes control of the situation. Now, we know Daryl, up to this point, he's not one to relinquish power or control if he thinks he's right. If he thinks he's right, he'll go off in the woods by his damn self. And he don't give a fuck. But what was even cuter about the scene was not only did she just move away like, okay, yeah, whatever you say, and the kids followed her, but then the dog follows her as well. So it's this little small taste to the audience that Daryl is a little bit intrigued by this girl, and even his dog senses it. That she is there's something there between them, and it's really cute when the dog chases after her. And we all know when a dog chases after a person, it's a metaphor. He really wants to follow in her lead. And then we get the moment where they're upstairs and they're talking together, and he's acknowledging the fact that she's smart and that she knows what she's doing and talking about, and that they don't need to speak a lot to work together. So it starts to build up the appreciation even more. And they also sacrifice their lives for the innocent. So they got that in common. They both got the soft ass hearts. So they got that in common. And the more you start having something in common, and it's not even just in common, it is a sense of, I don't want to say spirit animal because that is very disrespectful to Native culture, but in a sense of, you feel a certain other level type, like that you jive well together. I don't know how else to explain it. But if you want to look for shipper moments, it's in that conversation that they're having where they're showing about the blocked off tunnel, and then Daryl does something we have almost never seen him do with any other character, and that's reach out to physically touch someone. He put his hand on her, and she's kind of thrown off by it just a little bit, but she's kind of watching him in some interest too. And I don't think she was watching him in that way before, but the way they are working together, you can sense some chemistry, and that chemistry starts to turn a little sexual as they start to banter. They're fighting about Lydia, and they're going back and forth on this piece of paper. And there's just one long moment, which we all know in every shipper show, when a man starts staring at you and you ain't looking at them, you too busy all up in your argument, and then he gives her this look like, I know we arguing right now, but damn, you is cute. And I'm really liking the fact that you're so passionate about how you're feeling and that you want to do the right thing. There is an interest in his eyes, and we have never seen Daryl Dixon have that look for anybody else. If you want to point it out when I'm saying I'm wrong, well, no, maybe he had that look with Beth. That's why people hated Beth so much. And people who said that him and Beth was not looking at each other like that is wrong. It was wrong to have had them looking at each other, because ew. But that's where the show was going at some point. That's when I knew Daryl was not gay. If anything, I thought they might bust out that he was bisexual, or he was sexually confused, or better yet, he was asexual. That's where I was leaning towards the end with Daryl, that he was actually asexual and that he was never going to be with anybody. Because after seeing that look with him and Beth, either they were backtracking and realized they had made a mistake there and they will never make that mistake again, because that was just so wrong for so many levels. That's too much age difference, even in a TV show. Even with the actor, and I know you can portray, I don't know how old he's supposed to be in the fucking show. They never say it, but he is supposed to be younger than what Merle was supposed to be. So I think in the show, despite his age, he's supposed to come off like some either early or mid 30s or late 30s type of dude. And he's supposed to definitely be younger than Rick Grimes. And I'm thinking Rick Grimes is in his maybe mid 40s. So, and then Michonne is definitely younger. She has to be in her almost middle to late 30s. Now, these are just guesses, so if anyone wants to throw out in the comment section, let me know or send me some feedback. So that's where I go with them on that. And then him showing that sexual interest, that intrigue with her was our first indication. And then we get the other scene, and was there a scene? I feel like I was missing something. Because I felt like someone said there was supposed to be a shower scene, but I don't remember any shower scene in the finale. Nothing special happened to make me feel like they were getting it on this season. And I thought someone told me that they were getting it on this season, but it did not happen. And again, it could have been a scene that they did film, and then they said, oh fuck, we can't piss off all the Carol shippers, or they're not going to tune in for next season because we're going to kill Carol and we do want her fans there. Anyways, back to that moment, and then the next moment afterwards was when she goes up to him and they're about to leave out to track down whatever that moment it is, and she tells him good luck and be safe, and he takes like a whole half a second, like way longer than anyone needs to communicate. It's like, you too, like he's really surprised someone cared. Like, it's not that he hasn't had people care about him, but she has taken a vested interest in wanting him to be safe. And the only people that care about him as much are the people that's going with him, I should say. So he's got family back home, which is not something he has ever really truly had. No, I won't say that. His own personal family, I should say. Because everyone has family and then they have their own personal family. Right? It's like when shit went to the fan, Maggie was looking for Glenn. That's her own family. But looking for her sister, she was looking for Glenn. When Michonne and Rick pull up to the gates, he got his family in the car. He cares about the other people in the vans, but if shit hit the fans, he rolling out with his peeps. Everyone's got their little sections. We got Eugene and Rosita and their little family. When shit goes down, the quadruples are getting out. They're gonna wonder what happened to everyone else, but that's what it is. So that's kind of the first moment we got for Daryl, in which he's going out into danger, and someone that is just his, in a sense, is wishing him well, wanting him to come back, wanting him to be okay. And he says, you too. And then he has this moment where she's like walking away, and he calls her back, and he tries to, he's telling her wait up, and he's signing. So he's actually learned to sign. He's taken an effort to do something for someone else, which is another sign that he's more than just interested. and he asked her to feed his dog. Now, he has dog with him, it would seem, for a while, for the last 6 years. I don't know how long in the last 6 years. Maybe it's just 2 years, but dog has been his constant companion. In a sense, you would say it has been his inner family for all this time. He's checked in with his other family, but who he wakes up with and goes to bed with has been dog. And so it was more of a statement of what he chose to do, his actions. When he said, can you feed my dog? Technically, he could have brought dog with him. There's no reason that he would have kept dog at home, other than he wanted dog to look after her, to keep her safe. Wanting to keep her safe means she's mine. I want to protect her, even though she can totally and utterly take care of her own safe. And then she says, okay, and takes the dog. So it's more of a unspoken thing that hasn't been explored yet, because, it's shit popping off, people missing, and then the fair and the Pikes. And then, he's needed for Carol to support her through her time of loss. That's how it left for me. But there's definitely potential out there that they would be two people to navigate toward each other. So that's my take on the ship. And I'm so glad we're getting some of the shit out now, because then this covers a lot of the stuff I needed to talk about in the actual season itself. Seriously, the Whisperers are some straight up psychopaths. I think blending in with the Walkers was actually really smart, but why kill the living? That part does not make sense to me. These people are fucking crazy, and I just can't deal with them. I have mixed emotions about that group, and seeing what the outfit did to all those people makes me question what will happen further, and if I really want to watch season 10. Negan and the Saviors nearly killed me with everything that happened, so I don't know if I am up for watching something similar happen again. It will not be that way. It's going to be like a slow lull and then a build up, and then shit's going to hit the fan. I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue and less of the war until the end of the season, or maybe they're going to try to stretch it. I don't know what they're going to do with season 10, to be honest. They start filming soon, so I will know when you know, and I will be jumping all up on the spoilers this year, because I need to know my damn self. Because shit, if stuff get crazy, I don't want to watch. People need to give up on Carol and Daryl. Why you gonna tell them they just need to? But they do. But why you gonna tell them that? They don't have to give up on it. It's just more like, don't be pissed off at Connie and Daryl shippers just because your ship ain't canon yet. Because even if her and Zico broke up, if they were going to get together, shouldn't it have happened already? And I don't know how old Carol or Daryl are supposed to be, but the actors are both close in age. Hey, we were just talking about that. Norman Reedus is 50 and Melissa McBride is 53. I think maybe 54. So there really isn't an age gap. So if the writers wanted them together, then I feel like it would have happened already. True. Like I said, I don't know when they missed the memo, and I get they lie all the time in The Walking Dead, but I don't see where they've actually lied about a TV couple. But like I said, it could happen. Maybe they have a moment where like, oh, I should have known you were the one. It's not going to happen in any huge severity in the show, I don't believe, but that's just me. I could be surprised. Side note, Henry's dumbass deserved to die. He did all of that shit for some pussy that I don't even think that fool got a chance to even see. Definitely didn't get a chance to get balls deep in her. I feel bad for the King and Carol, but that is what the fool deserved. The only death that really got me was Enid. She didn't deserve that. Everyone else's death didn't really bother me. Even Tara, fuck her. She was an ass for stealing extra food and medicine from Alexandria when she decided to move to Hilltop. But Enid was my girl, and I am sad she died, and it is literally Henry's fault. Damn, I hope Lydia doesn't die or go back to her mama, because then all of their deaths were for nothing. Okay, this is my long-winded way of saying that I don't see the relationship potential in Connie and Daryl, or at least not from the interaction I saw in the one episode. Help me out if you saw something I didn't. So I already did. But I see what you mean about about them being together already. I think I've said all I've said on it. But Henry I think that it wasn't even so much about, yeah, he had his little romantic story, but I also think he grew up under a man named King, and he is the prince of the kingdom. This fucking boy grew up delusion as fuck, so he thought he had a halo on his head, and he grew up with the Bible of knighthood chivalry, and he went his ass out there, and it was all about the fair lady. It was all about the knightly love. So he didn't need to get up in that pussy or even see that pussy to have done the dumbass shit that he was gonna do. He was gonna do it. A girl was in trouble. He had to help. And I'm not saying it wasn't even wrong to do it, because she was so very abused. Like, for if you're gonna put your neck out there for a cause, at least Lydia wasn't crazy, and she knew where her bread was buttered. She didn't act dumbass, even though she had a few moments when she was scared, but she came through when she was supposed to come through, and she didn't go back to her mama. She stayed. So their deaths weren't for nothing in the finale once you get around to watching that. Yeah, I don't, as much as, yeah, Henry is a dumbass, because no, he needed to let the adults do it, but the adults really didn't want to help her either. So this all was just one huge teenage love story, and that's why we're so mean about it and don't really feel as empathetic as we should. But if I'm being devil's advocate, I do need to point out that this child was being beaten and did need to be saved. Now, I want to talk about these stupid fanboys. I did not read all of the comics. I read up until the prison was overrun and Carl, Rick, and Michonne ended up together. The website I was using to read the comics for free no longer exists, and I am not paying $3.99 per comic book to get caught up. Girl, that's what what's up with the public library is for. The public library. Yep. Until I find another free site, the public library, I will not be reading the comics of The Walking Dead. With that said, I don't know why these fuckboys would want the show to be like the comics. I mean, really though. On some things, yes, like I really miss comic Negan, but I love when show changed things up. I love the TV series Shadowhunters. I've read all the Shadowhunter books and will continue to read the books until the author stops writing them, so I love that the TV show changed things up. It would be so boring to watch and know everything that is going to happen. I would honestly lose interest. I like being surprised and I hate spoilers, so knowing what is going to happen every week would be a waste of my energy and even invest in the show. So why do people that love the comics want the showrunners to follow it exactly? If that was the case, Daryl Dixon wouldn't even exist, because I was told that he is not a character in the comics and people love Daryl. He is a fan favorite. This is very true. I don't know why some of the fuckboys wanted what they wanted. And then not only that, once they didn't get what they wanted, they try to overcompensate. The show just really fucked it up when it came to translating the series to screen in some cases. Not always, because No Way Out was probably the best way they've done. And I mean, once shit popped off, not that stupid ass instant black shit they were trying to do. They do things in the show to try to stretch things out for screen time that they need to just go ahead and allow to more organically evolve and exist. But yeah, I don't get people wanting to, and I'm trying to be fair, because there is a certain love you have, but you understand what I'm saying too. You can have a love of the source material, but not want it to be completely word for word on the screen. Or if it does, before you judge it, see if it even makes sense. Like, just because they changed it up being mad is the dumbest thing. Like, oh my god, Starfire isn't blue or green or whatever the fuck color she's supposed to be. Oh, I'm sorry, we're supposed to have an orange alien running around and you're just pissed because she's black? What the shit? Were we serious? So you're totally fine with a character on a shade that doesn't even exist because it's in the comics, then it being played by a Negro? That don't make no sense. None. That's called racism. Or worse, oh my god, Mary Jane has red hair. She can't be Mary Jane because she has freaking brown hair. Oh my god, are we serious? I mean, the hoops y'all jump through, and then y'all get mad when people call you racist. Like, this is not about racism, this is about comic accuracy. That's even worse. Racism comes out of different ways. It's racism versus it's comic racism then. If you want to call it a different kind of racism, it's comic racism. Jesus, if you're going to be a Puritist in any type of form of the way, you're starting to believe in Nazism. And once you start believing in Nazism and KKKism, then you are, in a sense, a racist. Don't own it if you don't want to. Don't say it if you don't want to own it. But I agree. I have read plenty of books. Like now, okay, let me relate in a way that I can relate to try to not be as shitty on the fanboys and not act like I don't get it on some things. I get if things change out and you're like, oh, well, I thought that they did it better in the book. That's a critique. But to say I need it to be just like the comics is dumb. Case in point, in Harry Potter, in the book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, there's a scene when they're playing Quidditch in which Harry falls off of his fucking broomstick and all the way on the ground, and it's dramatic and it's huge in the books, and the way they describe it, it's so appalling. And in the TV show, that shit cut, or in the movie, that shit cuts to black with him being saved, and I was not happy. That is one of my favorite scenes in that book, and they reduced it and left all of the sincerity and severity of the situation reduced. I hated it. Completely hated it. However, and this is something that's as accurate as to the fucking books as you can be, I didn't hate the franchise or go on any social media to be exact to vent about this, because it wasn't that big. It's my own personal assessment of what I read when I read something in my own interpretation in my brain. Everyone is going to look at it differently, as it should be, because you have different minds reading the same source material, but interpreting it differently. Idiots. Anyways, I don't know if they were trying to make Negan have rules in the show, but to me, blackmailing a woman into breaking up with her husband to be with you is rape. He didn't give her a choice at all. Either choose Dwight and I will kill him, or be with me and he lives. What the fuck? How is that a choice? The Negan in the show didn't have those rules. The Saviors even killed the little boys from Oceanside, so he did not have any problems raping and killing kids. But I don't see anything wrong with them making their Negan different than in the comics. I'm glad they made him a terrible person. It made it easier to hate him, and I still hate Negan even though Judith wants him to be saved. Let me let you keep on. I love Glenn in the horrific way Negan killed him. I wanted that motherfucker to die for it, and I still do. Glenn didn't deserve that. Why couldn't he have just shot him and let that be it? No, he bashed his brains in with a fucking baseball bat. I knew Glenn was gonna die, but that was a terrible way to go. So on this point, because you made a few points here that I wanted to pick out about it being rape in the show. I agree, because there are some people who are trying to say it was not rape, and it's because we know the comic book character that it's easy for us to want to say it's not rape. But in every context that you're saying, yes, it is rape. When you give a choice that's an impossible choice, it's not really a choice. So yes, it was rape in the show. I absolutely agree that that's exactly what he was doing. This is why I'm upset with the show on how they portrayed, not because they turned him to this evil dude. No, if they were going to do that, yes, I agree. They killed the little boys at Oceanside. They made it clear that Negan himself has killed a kid. They went full on evil with him. They wanted to make him the villain of all villains, right? Fine. You don't get to have him have his comic book arc then. At the end of the season 8, he should have died. No fucking way should he have been captured, and we get this other side. Now, does it bother me as much as other people? No, because I have a soft spot for Jeffrey D. Morgan. And I'm really down with this Negan and Michonne buddy team, because they would be fun to watch. And I do love their chemistry because they're good actors. It's not just that they're good actors and you want to see good actors act. It's just a natural impulse. But at the same time, I cannot blame anybody for hating Negan still and for thinking that he should die. Because in all honesty, that's exactly how it should have happened on the TV show. Because they decided they wanted to rev it up and make him worse than he was in the comics. Now, him killing Glenn in the comics, was exactly how he killed Glenn in the comics. The horrific way and everything. If anything, I'm more pissed off that they killed Abraham, because that was not in the comics and he didn't need 2 people to die. And they just did that shit just to have Daryl do something to fuck something up once again. Because Glenn's death is not on Negan, it's on Daryl. As much as Negan was swinging the bat and enjoying it, he had his one. The conversation was done. It was over. Daryl showed his ass because Negan was what? Antagonizing someone? He's been antagonizing all of y'all. So now you want to decide. He literally says the words, I am going to, if someone else talks, I'm going to fucking kill someone. And then he gives you one. He's like, I'm going to let you have that one for free. Then you watch him bash someone else's head in so you know he's serious. And then you decide to attack the same man with a, not even taking him out, just a punch. No, Glenn was on Daryl. But I can see why everyone wants Negan killed. Because he did do what he did. So I agree to a point with what you're saying, and I don't invalidate it. It's completely right. But the show should have killed him, and giving him this whole redemptive arc just it's just playing to the comics. That's in which case they should have said fuck the comics and let's do what we're trying to do in the show. And yet they went back to their crutch because Negan has a whole lot more storyline in the comics, which is why in this one case they should have never changed Negan's story from the comics if they wanted to go ahead and do the same trajectory, because the 2 trajectories do not fit whatsoever. Negan in the comics really didn't. I would not clarify what he did as rape. He, most of the time, all he did was look at a woman, think they was cute, and then if they wanted to not work anymore, they can fuck him and live up in his harem, and that was that. And he particularly had a thing for women's wives because he's a narcissistic, dude in control. And of course, what's the biggest fuck you to your men? Then I get to sleep with your wives, the people that you love and care about. So way different personalities there. He never killed kids in the comics. That was a no. He did not condone rape. Matter of fact, when they tried to kill who was it that went through the thing? I think it was not Rosita, was it? I don't remember. In the comics, the one of them, his people tries to rape someone and he literally kills his people. Like, no, we don't rape. And he kills his own people. Like all that shit going on at Alexandria with the one dude putting his hands all over Enid, that would have been a murder right then and there. We don't rape. And then in the comics, it really wasn't like he did his one thing and then he never came back to Alexandria to shove his dick down their throats. Like he says that line to him and he gets his shit, but it's not nearly as antagonistic. It's almost he's slightly amused. Even when Carl tries to put a gun up on him, he's like, hey, this kid is cool. He really does it. And he has a lot of respect for Rick in the comics. Even when Carl shoots up all his people, they did a kind of play of that. But if anything, it ends up being Negan who brings Carl back. They meet in the middle of the road. Like Rick beats his ass, Negan. And he doesn't allow any of his people to beat up Rick. And he's like, dude, I get it. Your son was missing. I'm going to let this slide. But I'm just trying to fucking work with you. Why you always beating me up? Like, I feel like in the comics, Rick definitely be acting more of an ass and revving up the war than Negan does. Like, Negan was just asking for war because he never even gave anyone an out in the TV show. So back to your email. Well, that's all I got for now. I am planning on watching the Umbrella Academy. Girl, I'm finished. But honestly, I got 2 papers, 2 tests, discussion boards due this week. Ooh, shit. No, you got a lot of shit going on. I'm not gonna. Ooh, Lord. I just worried with you. I just read that. I'm gonna keep that between us. So that's all we got for the feedback. Thanks for everyone for sending that in. Love it. And then I don't have too many other thoughts on, I think I've said a lot on the Richonne side, so I'm not going to go rehash that. And then, like I said, I hope Ezekiel and Carol get back together and die together in the end, because he needs to drop that damn accent. He's no longer the king. And we really get to see the actor act, because I would like to see him one season act truly without the persona, because he actually really be, once he put his deeper voice on, he be kind of sexy. So I do hope that they come back together in the end to avenge the death of their child. And that's about it. And Gabriel gets his death. I would love that to be the end of the season, is Gabriel dying. Because I don't know how they're going to do this whole damn war for a whole season in season 10. I just don't see it. Not with all the things that need to go down. And then Angela Kang, she did do her thing. I will say that much. For all that we have been shitting on the show, we have, and it's justified shitting on the show. Last 2 seasons were not great. She has done at least enough to make it interesting again. It's more cohesive. Yes, there are moments that you're annoyed with the characters, but you're actually looking forward to tuning in every week and seeing what's going on for whatever character is that you like. Whether it's Michonne, whether it's Carol, whether it's Daryl, if it's the romances, whatever it is that's your flavor. The show is doing a good job at this season, of particularly in the back half as well, because we all were going to watch the first half because it's Rick and we got to support Rick. But the second half, they really did, or she really did, I should say, make it enjoyable to watch again. And you were talking about it more. And you were interested in seeing what was going to happen next. And that's all you can really do. That's the best thing you can do for your audience. So I commend her for doing that and bringing more life back into the show. And I look forward to seeing what else she can do. Because I think if you give her a whole season, she can bring back the fandom. Because once this gets on to Netflix and people are able to watch the whole thing, and they get back into some of the storylines that are going on, I have no doubt. And with the movies and how it's going to be connected, we can reel back people in to see where their favorite characters are going to turn out. So if you want to send any feedback, you can send that to blackgirlcouch@gmail.com. You can find this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, and Stitcher at Black Girl Couch Reviews. My social medias will be below. I am doing the Flash next. Till then, peace.